Man, it's all about finding those shortcuts. It's all about finding, like you just said, you find someone who's already doing it. Hey guys, my good friend Sam Wakefield was kind enough to allow me to share this recording with you, as normally he does his podcasts only on the Apple Podcast platform and not on any video platform. I really wanted to share it with you guys, and hopefully you guys walk away with some really good nuggets about lead gen and what to do and what not to do. So have fun and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to the Close It Now podcast today. Sam Wakefield here, your host, and I am excited about our guest today. He is somebody that I've actually had the privilege to know for several years now. We originally connected years ago through this podcast, of all places. He reached out and we had a conversation about some sales training, sales philosophy, and I knew from back then, he's one of the only people that I've ever talked after that first couple conversations said, you know what? I don't think I can help you. You've got a good handle on this already. Let's I want to see you implement what you're already talking about. And so that's how our relationship started. We've done some things together over the years, and what he is doing now is completely disrupting the appointment setting and lead generation industry for virtual. That's something you hear us talk a lot about here in the Closing Now podcast, both virtual for solar and virtual for HVAC. And it's something this guy has mastered across the last several years. I'm super excited today to welcome the owner of SolarWise Solar Company, as well as the owner of Virtual Virtuoso, the lead generation and appointment setting company that's completely destroying that market and doing something completely different in a way that, I'll tell you what, it makes a lot of damn sense to me. And I'm really excited to have him on to give us kind of an idea of what it is and how people can benefit from it. So everyone welcome Mr. Peter Roth today. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Sam. And first of all, I just want to say, to anyone who's listening to this, first of all, thank you for the incredibly kind intro. I'm actually a really humble person, and I get really shy. And I'm like, oh, come on, you say that to all the pretty girls, But I wanted to, I got to give you the compliment right back, because I'm a lifelong learner. I'm never too proud to participate in any learning opportunity that I can with any trainer, any podcast, you name it. I just love soaking that kind of stuff up. And why I'm saying that is because, that's how I found you as a sales trainer. And I just connected with your style so much. You just have a very deeply philosophical and deeply analytical approach to sales methodologies. And I connect very well with that, as opposed to just people who just throw out whiz bang one-liners.
Right.
That just never really connected well with me. I realized there's so much of a deeper understanding, and I just have a huge amount of respect and appreciation for your style.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always been a philosophy. Is like, if I'm teaching you a specific one-line response to something, the minute that homeowner changes what they say by a couple words, well, you're just straight out of luck. But if I teach you the word track and how to craft the response and why we're responding this way, then it's teaching somebody to fish instead of just handing them a fish. And that's definitely what that's all about. Is let's teach you how to be the master of your craft, not just how to be a trained monkey that responds to a certain trigger.
That's an amazing point. And I listened to your podcast interview with Gene Slade, and I heard this part of the conversation there, and I have huge respect for Gene. So, hi, Gene.
Same.
I love the guy. And I have a huge amount of respect for the how you guys approach that subject, and I do it very similarly. And when I do training with my guys, whether it used to be on the HVAC side and now on the solar side, we go through those word tracks, and then what I do is, once they have a pretty decent understanding of the words themselves and of the concepts themselves, then what we'll do is we'll go through and I'll kind of quiz them on the why. Like, now, why do we say that? And I've put them on the spot. I'm like, this is not about you giving me the right answer. It's about you making those neural connections right now that can only be made when you're put on the damn spot.
Right.
If I don't put you on the spot, it'll never happen. You'll be forced into kind of like laziness and comfort, and then you'll never be forced to make those connections. It's the same reason why you can read a script, but it never has the same impact as when you're doing it in front of a live person. Like a role play
Yeah,
will
absolutely.
never
Absolutely.
replace an actual real life, right? Those real life situations force you to make those neural connections. When someone puts you on the spot and gives you an objection, you're like, oh shit, I don't remember where that is. It's page 3 of the script, right? But now you're like, you're
Mhm,
forced to have to make that connection, like boom, boom, boom. This part goes to this part, right? And it's
mhm,
just instant and it's permanent,
mhm.
right? It's permanent. The first time you've done it, you're like, that's it. I never need to study that portion ever again. I got it. Like
Exactly.
my brain just made those connections. And that's what we do is I'll go through and I'll force them to be like, now tell me the why. Like, why do we say this? What's the reason? And then they do it. And then what I'll do is I'm like, great, now let's actually do it live. I want you to actually do this one section with me, this one paragraph. Put the script away. You don't get to use it. I
Mhm.
could give a shit how much you screw it up. That's not the point. The point is not
Right.
about perfection. It's about forcing those neural connections.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna put myself in the role of the homeowner right now. And we're going to live role play, and I'm going to now put you in this particular part of the script, and I'm going to ask a question, and you're going to be
Mhm.
forced to have to make those connections, and then you'll never have to worry about it ever again. And as sure as shit, it works literally almost the first time around.
I love it. It's the same thing,
So
especially with if somebody's doing virtual or when I'm doing a site visit. Man, the guys that I just left in Pennsylvania, they'll tell you this. It's like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Let's practice it. Okay, you've got 5 minutes to look over it. Okay, everybody, put your papers down. Raise your hand. Who's at the front of the room? Everybody else, you're taking notes. And okay, we're
mhm.
everybody. You get a chance. It forces critical thinking. It forces that
Absolutely.
critical thought. Yep, I
Yeah,
love it.
it forces you to make those connections. You're like, shit, I can't read off the page. And it's like, well, yeah, because that's worthless. Like
Mhm.
reading off the page is never going to force you to actually understand what
Right,
you're saying and why you're saying it. That's the most
right.
important part. Once you understand why you're saying it, you won't even need the script anymore.
Hmm. Well,
Just
that's it.
know
And
what
I
you're saying.
think for most people in both solar and HVAC, once they've hit obviously there's an initial threshold of education. I mean, you have to know something about what you're presenting, what you're talking about. But when somebody hits that level of threshold, most people know how to answer the right questions or handle objections or whatever the conversation is. They maybe just don't know the right reason behind how to answer, or maybe just have things in the wrong order. That's one of the biggest things I see. If they just do things out of order, and if you are mixing two or three different mental thoughts into one section you're trying to do, then you're just going to confuse people. But if you
Yep.
just have the right order and you space it out the right way, and of course asking permission to present, then once you get all that down, the rest it doesn't matter the words, because we know the words you say are 15% of communication anyway. It's the rest is body language and tonality and
That's absolutely right.
belief.
That's right. I remember when I was still selling in the home, when I was doing HVAC in the home, driving around. This is when you and I were first got to know each other.
Mm-hmm,
I would print out my script, which I wrote obviously myself, and I printed it out. And there was always parts that you weren't good at. Even me,
mm-hmm.
even though I wrote the damn thing, there were still parts because I would come up with an idea.
Mm-hmm,
First of all, every time I pitched, I always, as soon as I got back in my car, first thing I did, pull out my script that was sitting on the
mm-hmm,
seat next to me, pulled it out, and immediately made notes. This needs
mm-hmm,
to change. This needs to change. I need to reword this. I need to move this line here and move this line here.
mm-hmm,
As the very first, I didn't call. I didn't call my wife. I did not. I literally grabbed my script and I made those tiny little notes and I made adjustments as soon as I got home, so I didn't forget. Get home
mm-hmm,
and make adjustments, and that's how success is born. You
mm-hmm.
start with a shitty
Absolutely.
script. You start with a shitty script until it becomes a really awesome script,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Exactly. And so I hope everybody's listening, because this is how to dramatically improve really, really quickly. So that self evaluation every single time, and it doesn't have to take long. It's what, 5-10 minutes maybe,
if that.
but just going through each step and saying, okay, what's the one thing I'm wanting to work on right now? And don't confuse yourself. Don't try to change everything.
Mhm.
Pick the one thing that you need and want to work on. So personally, for me, years 1 and 2 in the field selling HVAC, I can tell you, I didn't one time ask for the sale at the end. I was so scared. I was scared shitless to ask for somebody's money. 2
Really?
solid years, every single day. I had okay, today I'm going to ask for the sale. Today I'm going to ask for the sale. Today I'm going to ask for the sale. And get out to the car and then beat myself up. Damn it, I didn't ask for the sale.
Oh man, that's crazy for me to hear you. I'm actually really shocked to hear you say that, but it just goes to show that like what a common weak point that is for so many people. With as intelligent as you are, and as much as you know about sales and home improvement sales, and yet even still that
Mhm.
plagued you for so long. Like that's
Oh,
crazy.
geez, it was rough. Well, and a lot of it too is one, I'd really barely started this my self-education in the topic, but it was much more about just, I was great at presenting stuff. Here's get excited about the features and started barely talking about benefits, but when it comes time to ask for somebody's money, I was just scared to until and so actually you're a master at this. I've read a lot of your scripts over the years and done some critiquing for you. And what for everybody out there, a little bit of back context and what we're talking about. So when you and I don't want to steal your thunder here, but a bit of a part of the program when if you connect with Peter and what he's doing with this lead generation, and what makes it so powerful is we all know there's 1,000 lead generation companies out there. I guarantee you, if you play this podcast out loud, your phone's going to hear it, and all of a sudden you're going to start getting ads from these hungry monsters out there, and you'll start getting direct messages. Personally, I get probably 20 to 30 direct messages every single day from somebody trying to sell me either solar or heating and air leads, because it's gross what that has turned into. The problem is they're all the same, and the leads are okay. You can definitely get a good return on investment. However, the problem with most people when they buy leads is they don't know how to close them. And so that's part of the secret sauce of what Peter's put together is he also trains you how to close them when you when you get some stuff from him when you choose to work with him. So, but I'm really excited about that, man. So let's segue that into what we're talking about today. So
Cool.
give for everybody that doesn't know Peter, give us a little bit of your the highlight reel of your backstory and how you landed into solar, kind of how your vision is for it in conjunction with the other trades, specifically heating and air. Because
Mhm.
personally, I'm with you. We're some of the only people out there messaging this right now that it's even a better combination than like roofing and solar is HVAC and solar.
Mhm.
And tell us why you think where you're at and some of the things that you're doing to get there.
I'll give you like it's because kind of a funny, quirky story as to how the heck I even got into solar, which then I'd have to answer the question of how I got into HVAC. In order to
Mm-hmm.
answer that question, I would go back even a little bit further. So I owned and I still own a cigar business, which is really weird. I get that. That's what my first business that I ever started when I was right out of college was a cigar kiosk in a mall. And believe it or not, it actually did really, really well. I mean, it actually blew my
I
mind.
believe it. Yeah.
I would never would have thought that a kiosk could make that much money, but it actually did. So if you thought about a kiosk, you should consider it. So that did really, really well. And then that blew up and but turned into multiple retail stores. And then that blew up and turned into this really, really cool world-class cigar bar, martini lounge, jazz club, the whole deal. Written up in Cigar Aficionado, national recognition, all kinds of cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So during my tenure at this cigar bar, we had issue, like even though we were allowed to smoke cigars in there, obviously, and had landlord permission to do it, obviously, we had neighbors because it was like a glorified strip center type thing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
there were commercial neighbors on all sides of us, and smoke has a fancy way of finding little nooks and crannies and seeping into neighboring spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing I know, I'm getting letters from my landlord, like demand letters, like fix it or get out.
Ooh.
Which he was not polite about this thing at all. Landlords
Mm-hmm.
tend to do the whole, David and
Oh, of
Goliath.
course. They try to bare their teeth, bare
Oh,
their fangs
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
hope they can
absolutely.
scare you out.
Yeah, absolutely. So they did that, and we would try to fix the problem, but a lot of times you can't even reach beyond these like floor, commercial floor joists. It's tough to even get up into those nooks and crannies, and some of those gaps were on the tenants, the other tenant side, and so we couldn't even get our way into to really seal them off. So we either needed access to the tenant space, which they never gave us, or the
Mm-hmm.
landlord himself needed to go in there, which they never do because landlords never lift a finger to do anything.
Sure.
So we were stuck between a really rock and a hard place here and weren't getting anywhere fast. So which meant the demand letters kept getting more severe from the landlord. And it's this dumb catch 22 because like no one's doing their job and we couldn't do any more of ours. Next thing you know, we get a letter, a legal letter, certified mail delivered to us of a formal eviction notice,
Mm-hmm.
like formal eviction. like, get out. This is it. You're
Right.
done. So we have to appear in court. So now we go to court. We won our first court case. We proved to them that, like, we've done everything that we can. The landlord is just being a pain. So we won that one and got attorney's fees. And we're like celebrating, yay, we got attorney's fees. But what we didn't realize is, yeah, you're just pissing off the landlord even more now, right?
Yeah.
He tried suing us again. For some reason, everything kind of quieted down for like a year, and then it all came back again a year later.
Sure.
All over again, the same process. Now, eviction notice too. Again, go to court, win, same thing happens again. We get attorney's fees. But now we've really pissed off the bear, right? Poked the bear too many times at this point. And, my guys were all thinking, we beat him again. It's like, that's really not how it works, guys. Like, he controls the lease, right? Let's not forget that,
Yeah, when it comes time to renew, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens then. Exactly. And I think you know where this story is going. So anyway, so we won that one. But the problem was that even the judge said, he's like, hey, you still have to do something. Like, you got to go get this exhaust system put in, this very expensive exhaust system. And I later found out it was not an expensive exhaust system at all. It was actually a very simple rooftop, just commercial rooftop, one directional, exhaust system, no return air, nothing fancy at all.
Just suck it out.
I knew nothing about this stuff at the time. I barely knew how to turn on a thermostat. Like, I literally knew nothing about anything. So I just thought, commercial plus HVAC equals giant expensive bill, right? And which is pretty accurate. So, here I am, just small business owner calling up all these HVAC, commercial HVAC shops, which, you and I, that's not our space, right? We're more in the residential space.
Right.
When you start calling these commercial, places, you're used to seeing, an average install, $50, $100, $200,000.
Right.
Right. So they're looking at my little podunk, little tiny little situation going like, we're going to have to rob this guy blind in order to make it worth our time. So, I mean, I'm telling you, like, they must have come in and put in this tiny little, I don't even remember, 500 CFM little exhaust, rooftop exhaust fan, and charged me like 15 grand for it.
Oh, geez.
I was stupid enough to not know any of that. Like, I knew nothing. It was just nothing but the rooftop or the exhaust fan itself with a tiny run of ductwork that was like maybe 10 feet long.
Yeah.
And that was 15.
I now know that's about $1,000 worth of.
Yeah, that's about $1,000 worth of equipment right there.
Well, and we all know they gave you the basically go away price, and you took it. And they're like, damn it, I have to actually do the work.
Yeah, exactly. I took it because I didn't have a choice, because I was under, like, literally, I had a judge, like a judge's order to get this done or else, right? And that didn't fix, but lo and behold, that didn't fix the problem. So then this process repeated numerous times. So I had to go, like, I spent, I'm not exaggerating, well over $150,000 on all these different commercial band-aids that we put up there. So I, by default, became an accidental HVAC pro. by accident, just that's what happens when you get ripped off so many times. You kind of tend to learn a few things.
Like, what can I do myself?
Yeah. So, and that's how I ended up meeting, at the time, who was a very, very close friend of mine. And then, fast forward a little while later, he comes up to me, we became really good friends. And the guy was literally helping me around this bar, just doing all my repairs, all HVAC, all electrical, anything like that, for literally Bud Light. Like, literally Bud Light. I'm not
pay you in beer, you're good.
He asked for it. I didn't that wasn't even me trying to lowball him. He asked for it. He's like, just pay me in Bud Light. I was like, okay, man, whatever.
Cool.
So yeah, that went on for a long time. So, but then he eventually approached me. We became really close friends, and he approached me and he was like, hey, do you want to start an HVAC company? I'll do all the wrench turning. You start the sales and marketing, and I'll do all the heavy lifting. And I was like, took a little bit of time back and forth, and actually agreed to do it. So that's how we started our HVAC company. So then that, at some point I came to you and I was like, hey, I see you're doing solar. Let's talk about solar. I want to integrate that into my HVAC company. This was before everyone else was even doing it,
Yeah. That's almost 3 years ago now.
Yeah, both of us were total rookies, right? Both of us were total rookies.
Clue.
Neither one of us had really any clue what the hell we were doing. We were both kind of learning at the same time. Thankfully, we're pretty quick studies, but
thank goodness.
And so here we are now. So we sold that company, did really well there, and then just transitioned purely into solar. And my mission all along, when I got into solar, was never really to be a salesperson myself, but I mean, I had to, but it was always to provide this business in a box for other reps. That was always going to be my goal because I saw that there was a huge missing, this was just missing in the industry.
Yeah.
So that was my goal, was to always provide this business, but I had to learn how to do every single component. And there's a lot of components, there's a lot of legs on this chair. You know,
oh geez, yeah. That's what I did not have any expectation of when I first got into solar. You know, I'm like, I'd never even heard of a metric called a realization rate. You know, it's like in HVAC, you sell it and it installs.
Yeah.
What do you mean 70%? Well, I mean, for everybody listening in HVAC, the industry average in solar for cancellation after the job is sold is 46% will install. You know, the cancellation rate is absurd. It's absolutely abysmal. And of course, that's because of lots of varying reasons. A lot of it's deadbeat salespeople.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
it's a huge part of it too.
I think that's
and,
the
or
majority.
you know, lots of companies that are come and go, just like in HVAC. There's a massive churn of, you know, chuck in a truck, we call them, or the Billy butt cracks of the world that hang out they get an entrepreneurial Caesar, hang out a shingle and say, oh, I can do this too, and then they're out of business in 6 months, and then you've left all these homeowners in a bad way, just like in HVAC. And so, but yeah, there's so many pieces we didn't know when we first got into it.
Man, when I first got started too, like, you know, I've always been, a total perfectionist when it comes to sales processes and stuff like that. So my, realization rate was never anywhere close to that. But, there were plenty of times when I was brand new. And even then I was probably losing, I'd never tracked it back then. So I honestly don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was losing probably 20 or 30%, of my deals.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
Tracking them, I don't know. I do know that now we are sub 3% company.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah,
sub 3%, and it could actually be lower than that because that's the last time we actually did the looking into it. But there are companies out there that literally have almost zero.
So 0% cancellation. So.
We talked about this, right? It's like you said, when the first guy who climbed Everest. Now there's hundreds of other ones.
Yeah,
all you got to do is
absolutely.
prove it can be done. And
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, the company where I'm connected with has 15,000 reps now. The company average is, still mid 70s. I'm pushing 80%. So that's pretty. It's pretty amazing. Looking at that, and there's plenty of teams that are 99 to 100%. So yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, I can think of some of my cancels. They were like, some people decided to go solar with me, and then 2 weeks later they messaged me like, "Hey, we're moving to Montana." Okay, well,
yeah, that's
great,
I don't even know that
there's some random stuff, but
I wouldn't even call that a cancel. A cancel is really like, I changed my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, that's a cancel, is I changed my mind because you didn't do something right, so I changed my mind. Moving, that's just shit happens.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. So I love it. So we've got this business in a box now.
Yeah.
And what's it do? Right.
Yeah, what the hell does this thing do? Well, why don't I tell you first what the problems that we solve, right? Because that's what every business is. It's just it's a solution to a problem, right? Pretty straightforward.
It's a great way to approach it.
Yeah, you just always go out there and sniff out problems, and solar has a lot of them. I'm sure you've already sniffed those out yourself. Right? Jesus Christ, that your Alexa having a conversation?
Yeah, it is. All of a sudden.
Oh, shit, I just said the name. Now mine's going to start talking to me too.
We'll clip this out.
You got to be careful. Yeah, you got to be careful not to say her name.
What time? I need a timestamp. All right,
cool. So so it starts with the problem, and then you go and you solve it. So the problem that I saw was, there's multiple problems, and then they all kind of came in together. But what I really saw was that, like, I became a victim because I never wanted to sell in the home. Like I to this day, I've never sold one solar system in the home, not a single one. They've all been done sitting right at the same desk that I'm sitting here right now. 9 out of 10 times I'm wearing pajamas. So I'm not exaggerating. I just hate leaving my house, guys. Like, I'm just lazy. I really hate leaving. I sold in the home a lot when I was selling HVAC. It's cool. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. It's not that. I don't dislike it, but it does get old getting in and out of your car, especially in the shitty weather, and stuff like that. It just gets old. It gets old after a while, putting tons of miles on your car.
Quick side note: I am building on virtual HVAC sales program as well. So everybody that's listening, be on the lookout for that. There's a huge missing piece for that. In fact, one of the guys that I did the very first podcast on virtual HVAC sales, Aaron Courtney over in Tennessee, their company is now, since we did that 2.5 years ago, Their companies could do $4 million in HVAC sales completely virtually. They have 3 full-time virtual HVAC salespeople. So it is, again, it's possible. Somebody has to do it first. So that is something that's happening. So I'm putting that together, and we're going to
Can
talk
I
to you about
interview
that.
after I'm done telling this? Can I interview on that real fast?
Of course,
Here
absolutely.
on your show? Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions because I'm curious. So, yeah, so the problems that we found was that like I said, I never did in home. I was strictly virtual, which meant now I got to figure out where the hell I'm going to get my leads. Okay, this is just how it happens, right?
Mhm.
And again, in the world of solar, if anyone is listening to this, the world of solar is very different than just about any other home improvement space, because
Mhm.
every other home improvement space, you work for a company that provides you leads, right?
Correct.
Like in HVAC, they've got this huge book of business. Sorry, there's a lawnmower. I'm going to close my window real fast.
Mhm. I love this conversation, everybody, because we're different parts of the world. Peter's actually in Colorado, where the weather is gorgeous. I'm looking at 103 degrees here in Austin, Texas today, and he's sitting there with his window open. So
Yeah, it's beautiful.
everybody, let's give a collective boo to Peter right now. 1, 2, 3, boo.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And that's probably about 75, 80 degrees or something inside. It's really nice. So, so I'm saying that, in solar, you got to get your own leads. This is, I think the closest industry to the compare it against would be like insurance sales,
Sure.
right? Like most people who are insurance are basically brokers, and they don't work, they're not a direct employee of any one company. Like most people don't work for American Family, but they're a broker
Mhm.
for American Family. It's kind of like a very common thing in solar to be that. It's a weird world in solar. I mean, it blew
It
my mind
is.
when I first got exposed. I'm like, what a weird setup this is in solar. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing
Mhm.
else like this in any other home improvement space. It's very traditional in other home. You either work for the roofing company and they give you leads, or you work for the HVAC company and you go into
Mhm.
the home, the people that call for service tickets, very
Right.
straightforward, makes perfect sense, but not in solar.
Mhm.
So you got all these brokers out there going, where the hell am I going to get my business from?
Mhm.
So, which means now there's 1.5 million, how do I put this politely, less than honest lead gen companies out there,
Mhm.
who are just looking. There's a lot of scams out there. But even if you, and I've been scammed several times,
Mhm. Oh
probably,
yeah, the amount of thousands of dollars I've spent in lead generation for, driving up to junkyards and places, empty lots and stuff is
no
absurd.
shit,
Also,
really? That happened to you?
100%. Yeah, yeah. And then you try to get a hold of them because they have all these guarantees of we'll replace the lead if it was not a good one, and then you can't get a hold of them again. That's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yep. Yep. So I did that. Yeah, I did the same thing too. I mean, I did, thankfully I never had to leave my home, but I did
Mhm.
lose a lot of money. And thankfully, you get burned a few times and it doesn't happen again. So, I probably lost maybe like 5 grand, but that's
Mhm.
still sad. I hate to see anyone any amount of money, even if it's $5, I hate to see anyone lose it.
Mhm.
So problem number one is, where the hell am I going to get leads and actually get some quality leads? And then you have to get into this deeper conversation of what the hell is a lead. Like
Mhm.
a lead can be a cold homeowner record, or a lead can be an age solar lead, or a lead can be an exclusive lead, or a lead can be a booked appointment, or a lead can be a guaranteed sit. And
Mhm.
until you know what all of these things are, you're a sitting duck for
Mhm.
severe losses. So you
Mhm.
better learn what all of those things are and know how to ask the right questions. So obviously I know these things now because I've been burned, right? I always tell people, it's like, I'm not a genius. I just fell off the bike more than the
Right.
average and keep getting back up because I'm an idiot.
Absolutely. All my
I tell
trainings, I'm
people, it's
like,
like,
this is one of those ask me how I know moments.
for sure, like you see a lot of people who are super successful, and they just kind of give you they give you the feel good story of like, you just got to get back up off that bike. It's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get up.
Mhm.
Yeah, but isn't that the
Okay,
same thing
okay,
you would say
Rocky.
about a total idiot?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Keep
Like,
doing the same thing over and over, right?
you could say the exact same thing about complete idiots as you can about genius billionaire salespeople. So it's a
Mhm.
very fine line between which one you really are.
Right.
Right. So it's always I'm constantly questioning myself every day, because every day is a
Mhm.
series of challenges like that. You're right, because you deal with failures all day long, right? There are many failures or big failures. It just depends on the size of your failure, but you're
Mhm.
dealing with all day long. And there's this constant battle in your mind going like, am I throwing, good money at bad?
Mhm.
Or am I supposed to be doing what every, business coach has ever told me, which is just keep getting back up again, right? But like, what's
Right.
the difference? Like, what is the difference between? And some days, man, it's like I just don't know what the hell the difference is, so I just keep getting up because I think that's just
Mhm.
the way I'm wired. But yeah, so that's why I usually tell people I've just fallen off the bike more than most and just continue to get back up again. But so you got to learn
Absolutely. It's
the difference.
fell
You got to
faster.
Yeah, fail faster. I like that. You got to learn the difference between, what it is that you're even buying in the first place. So part number one is my goal is to just provide the highest quality of everything.
Mhm.
It's not the cheapest way to do it, of course, but you get what you pay for, right?
Absolutely.
If you're going to buy, if you're going to buy junk, expect junk, garbage in, garbage out. It's just the way that it works. So, because I've made all those mistakes, I just don't want other people to deal with them again. And quite honestly, I don't want to be the guy who has to field all the complaint calls, right? Because that sucks.
Yeah, it
That's the
does.
last thing I want to do is listen to complaint calls. So I'd rather just serve people a high quality product, even if it's at a higher price, just a high quality product that I know is actually going to deliver results. So, step one is we deliver guaranteed sits, right?
Okay.
Everything is completely trackable and traceable, and our sits are guaranteed. And if they no show on you, we just immediately replace it. Takes a day, no big deal, very simple. So
Mhm.
that's part one. Part number two, really though, is like I always tell people, it's like, when you go to these big lead gen companies, I'm not going to throw their names out because we all know who they are, but you go to these big lead gen companies, and what they don't tell you is what you need in order for it to make all of this work. What they don't tell you is that in virtual, you better have amazing tools and systems,
Mhm.
CRMs and automations and all of this stuff in place before you ever get started. Because if you don't, you're going to lose an ungodly amount of those leads to just spoilage.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
I
Just go
literally
fall
call it
right through the
spoilage.
cracks and you don't even know where they're
Yeah.
going.
I call it spoilage, just like a grocery store loses produce to spoilage, and they just factor that into their business model.
Mhm.
It's the same thing here. For
Mhm.
every lead that you don't follow up with on time, spoiled, gone, throw it away,
Yep.
move on, right?
Mhm.
And this happens all the time. And the fact of the matter is, these margins are so small, and the margin for success is so small that if you lose just a handful too many, you
Mhm.
completely lost your opportunity for return on investment. It's been
Mhm.
lost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what these companies don't tell you, because they want to sell you stuff, what they don't
Mhm.
tell you is that you better have your tools and your systems in place. You better have a very solid understanding of how to sell solar virtually, because it is not the same as selling in the home. And
Mhm.
then what happens is, what if they did tell you that? Do you think anyone would buy anything? They'd be like, "Oh shit, I better go get my tools and systems. I better go get some sales training.
Right.
I'll be back in 3 months when I'm ready for you."
Mhm. Mhm.
And they'd have exactly zero clients,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So they can't tell you that because they'd be shooting themselves in the foot. So I have heard the statistic that these big companies, again, I'm not naming names, that these big companies put more people out of business and drive more people out of solar than they help every year.
That would not surprise me at all.
Mind
Not
blowing.
even a little. Mhm.
Mind blowing.
Yep, because
That's
now
how much.
everybody's budgets are well. So what happened? I mean, I've seen this happen. A ton of people throughout just everybody I know in different companies. They're like, okay, I've got to make this work. This is my leap, the leap of faith to the
Oh
solar promised land.
God, that
And
scares me.
here's my last $10,000, or I don't have any cash. Here's the last $10,000 I have on a credit card. I'm betting it all on black, and
Yeah.
they buy all these leads and have no idea how to handle them and no idea how to sell them. But I'm guaranteed to have my calendar full.
And
And
then what
then,
happens?
and then what
And
happens? Right?
wah wah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking nothing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Nothing. Not even one deal. I interviewed a guy, brilliant dude, by the way. I
Mm-hmm.
could talk about him all day long. I love this guy. He's a client of mine. He was a client of one of these big solar lead gen companies. We ran through his numbers real quickly. He had spent $7,500 a month with a 3 month commitment to sign up with one of these companies.
Mm-hmm.
For that, he got 9 booked appointments from them, of which half showed up, of which 0 deals were closed.
Oh my God. Oh, stabs
And
a
this is
knife
and
in the
this is just
heart.
one and this is just one story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who?
And
I
this
mean, the first question is, who? Most people don't even have that kind of runway to even start.
And let me tell you one other sad piece of news. It is not because of lack of sales training. This guy was at 19 years old, he got recruited by the Brian Tracy organization to become a high ticket closer for Brian Tracy. He then got recruited by Tony Robbins to become a high ticket closer for Tony Robbins' coaching program. He became known as the youngest, highest closing percentage closer for the Tony Robbins program ever.
Whew.
So it is
Wow.
not lack of sales training that this
Not
guy,
for lack of ability to sell. That's for damn sure.
So this should be opening everyone's eyes, going like, I better have some tools and systems in place that are sharp as hell, because clearly that was the missing component in his particular use case.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell you, what they don't tell you is that, like, you better call these leads, each one of them, a minimum of 10 times, ideally in the first 10 days. You're not doing that, you may as well not even give us your money.
Absolutely.
But of course, they're not going to tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Call every day. Call multiple times a day.
Multiple times every day.
Just
no one
pick
knows
up the
that.
phone.
See, everyone thinks if I'm spending this much money, man, they better answer on the first ring, or it's a no-show.
Well, and quick pop out for everybody. I know on a podcast recently, Peter, I don't know if you heard it or not, but I was going through 4 ways to generate free leads. And one of the lead generation free ways is, I was telling everybody, there's a lot of HVAC lead generation companies out there. So if you're not getting paid additional commission on your self-generated leads, that additional commission more than pays for the cost of the leads. So that's a great way to improve your off-season numbers and even in-season numbers for self-generated, is buy your own leads, take ownership of your business. And when you do that, in fact, one of my coaching clients right now, he's like, man, this is perfect timing, because I've been selling these Daikin Fit systems. They're spiffing me a couple $100 or whatever it is each one. My card's about to get reloaded, so I'm taking money was coming as a surprise fund money anyway and reinvesting it.
Yep.
And I was like, beautiful, this is great. But you're right. So everybody who listened to that and is buying leads, this is the biggest gold nugget on that. So continue about how often you should call them and when you should call them.
Well, let me actually say something actually on your credit, which is that, guys, if you're an HVAC and you are doing your own lead purchasing, then definitely talk to Sam, because with the last thing I want to see you do is the same thing that the last thing I want to see my solar clients do, which is show up with a fistful of cash and be totally unprepared. Now, thankfully, that's what my company does, is it protects those people. It actually protects their investments, and that's why we call it a business in a box, because it provides all of those missing tools, which I'll finish telling you about here in a second. But that's what Sam can help you do too. What you don't want to do is be one of those unprepared people with a fistful of cash and a smile on your face, thinking you're about to walk into, the casino here and get the golden ticket, and then all of a sudden the whole thing just flops on you because you were ill prepared, like what we just talked about, like with the story of this guy that I just told you about. Don't be that guy. So go to Sam and talk to him about what you need. I'm sure Sam will talk to you for a few minutes, give you the quick bullet points and point you in the right direction. If he doesn't have the direct answer, he can certainly point you in the right direction of what you need done. So that part gets me passionate, because that's where people get really destroyed quickly.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Thank you for that. But yeah, so it's important that they know that how often and when they should call, and that's part of the system that you're training is, even from the beginnings there, right?
There's 3 major legs, right? I always tell people there's 3 major legs to this whole thing. We talked about it at first. Everyone says, give me the leads, right? Usually when I talk to people in our discovery portion, I ask them, like, what's the biggest thing missing from your toolkit? Like, what can I help you with? And 9 out of 10 times it's the same answer. They always say, give me the leads. Right?
See more people.
Just give me the leads. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it. Leads are important, sure. But tell me about everything else. Like, tell me about, I say, like, leads are fuel for the car. Tell me what kind of car you're driving. Like, is it a beater that breaks down on the side of the road? Do you even have a car? Are you just riding a bike to work? Like, tell me about this car, the tools and the systems that bring everything together. Because I bet you they don't have anything, and 9 out of 10 times they have nothing, right? So I'm like, you're going to be the same victim that is, and have the same story that all these other guys have, and that's what I don't want to see happen to you, because it happened to me and everybody else. I'm just sick and tired of watching it happen. So, leg number 1 is the fuel for the car. I get it, but do you see how that's just fuel? And now we need the rest of the complex machinery itself. So, like, let's get into the rest of this. Let's look under the hood and see what we're working with here. And, just like Michael O'Donnell says, it's like, if we're going to drive a car, let's make it a Formula One race car,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, word.
So, now if I'm going to give you a Formula One race car with your present day knowledge of how to drive a Formula One race car, like how well do you think that's going to work out for?
Smashing right into the walls, that's for
Probably
sure.
not very good, right?
Doing donuts and can't even get off the starting line.
Yeah, probably terrifying, So we got to talk about training, sales
Mhm.
training, right? And how to manage this entire system. It's not the
Right.
sexiest conversation, but it's the most important part of the whole
Mhm.
damn thing. It's what ties everything. There's a reason why you need a driver's license to drive a
Mhm.
car, right? And
Yeah,
it's
you
the
can have all the leads in the world, but if you can't close them, you might as well go make
just
sandwiches.
throw away your money. So these are the main three pillars that we do, right? We obviously provide fuel for the car, but then we provide you with the Formula One race car, all the tools and the systems and the expensive components needed to make all this stuff work so that you don't have the spoilage, so that you're not
Mhm.
a victim to spoilage like everybody else is. And then, of course, you
Mhm.
have to understand how to run this whole thing, right? And that's what
Mhm.
we train you. We literally handhold you, one-on-one mentorship, all takes place inside of 5 business days. I always tell them, like, you can give me anybody off the street in 5 days, I'll turn them into a high ticket solar closer very
Love
fast.
it. I love it. And I've seen a lot of the things from SolarWise and from Virtual Virtuoso, and got these guys that are, a little bit more too about solar for most people listening. The industry average is most solar closers that are considered, like average, and this is average making, 100 to multiple six figures a year, are doing maybe a deal a week. And
That's
I've
two
seen
deals. 2 deals a month is the industry.
two deals a month is the average. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
also absurd. If you're treating this like a full-time job, surely you should be making closing more than that. What
Mhm.
happens is so many people, they've never read the book Go for No, which I highly recommend, is they get concentration risk. They have a couple big commission projects. They're like, hey, woo, let's celebrate. And then they stop working the rest of the month. And they're like, all right, well, maybe one doesn't install for some reason, and the other one needs a roof and it takes forever. And then they're toast. But so what I've seen so many things from Peter's clients, everybody is like, if you're into solar at all, there's people who do multiple deals a day. We're not talking about, two a month. We're talking about multiple deals a day. And so we're talking about multiple six figures. I guarantee his clients strictly on their own efforts that are doing seven figures in a calendar year through solar cells. So this is a big part of why you hear me talk about it so much now in this podcast, because there's a handful of people in all of HVAC that'll do seven figures a year. Within solar, there are hundreds in the country that'll do seven figures a year.
Oh yeah, yep. That part is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep.
So back to the components. I'm sorry. I get excited about these little detours because the power of the industry, nobody realizes what it is yet. Just like the country's just waking up to HVAC, and it's
Mhm.
decades old. Um, Solar is like that next piece. I heard it compared like this, where HVAC, and this is not to discredit HVAC because I love the industry. Everybody, it's my favorite. It's what I do. But if you can close in HVAC, you're in the minor leagues. If you can close in solar, you're in the major leagues, because it's a whole different animal.
It is, yeah. Solar is definitely a much more complex sale. The reality of it is, and this is what I tell people all the time: the reality of selling solar is that it's really hard to sell something that you don't need at all.
Mm-hmm.
You need HVAC. If you're in Arizona and your AC goes out, you can die.
Mm-hmm.
If your furnace goes out in Illinois in the middle of winter, you can die.
Mm-hmm.
These are urgency motivators, and they're
Right.
serious, right? And they cause you not to price shop, and they cause you not to get 3 competitive quotes. They cause you to just take action on the first guy who shows up to your house.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As long as the price is somewhat reasonable and he has a decent enough smile and he doesn't smell like cigarettes, you're probably
Mm-hmm.
just going to buy from that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Solar, no, solar, unfortunately, is a totally non-sexy sale that nobody needs and no one has an emotional connection to,
Mm-hmm.
because I can go to a house right now with solar and rip their panels right off of their rooftop, and their utility will just start serving them electricity again seamlessly. They won't even know it even happened. I can go to rip it
Yeah.
off the house right now. They won't even know that it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. It's
They really
such
won't
a
even know it's
want.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a want-based sell that that was the initial shock for me too. Just like you, when we first got in, it's like, holy crap. Uh, I don't go 0 for 10. Why am I 0 for 10? Right?
It's a scary day when you realize, holy shit, I'm not batting the same average as I was. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember you and I once we were talking. I remember this conversation. We were it wasn't even that long ago, and I remember texting him like, "Hey man, I think I just closed like 15 or 20 deals in a row," and I think you went up to me. You're like, "I think I did 25 or some shit like that."
Right.
I
Yeah.
remember I was like blown away. I'm like, I think I just closed like literally 15 or 20 deals in a row.
Yeah.
Like this is bananas, and in HVAC.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't always like that. I had plenty of runs in the beginning where I was like, 5, 6, 7, losses in a row. But
Oh, of course, yeah.
an event that eventually turned around. But man, no way does that happen in solar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. So, but gosh, I love what you're doing. We're handing people something that they can take, and don't get me wrong, everybody. This is so. In fact, let's back up, and the demographic that is a good fit for this, it may be a good conversation, because solar is not something that a lot of people can just dive into if they don't have the right key components in place. It's almost like for a lot of people getting into solar, they've got to win the parlay bet to be successful. Their runway has to line up along with the ability to close, along with the market that the installs happen soon enough, et cetera, et cetera. So who's a good fit for this, and how? I know you have multiple levels. How can people get involved and learn more, and let alone, is there a fit for somebody that maybe is in HVAC and wants to tinker with this? Is there a fit for, we're jumping in full time? What's that look like?
You're asking for my program,
Correct.
or not in solar in general? Okay,
Yeah.
because
Well,
two
actually, I mean,
different answers.
give us the comparison. Yeah, give us your perspective on all of that in kind of in an
Well,
answer.
solar in general I have good news for solar in general. The good news is it's a pretty broad, uh, pretty broad type of person can be a good fit for solar.
Mm-hmm.
Now you do have to have certain requirements. Like you better have really strong grit, more so than in HVAC, because of the fact that it's not a sale born out of necessity. So you're going to have to work a lot harder. You're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
create urgency. You're going to have to create desire. And that is hard to do. And that requires very specialized training, because it's not, no one
Mm-hmm.
knows how to do that just, right out of the box. So you better have a very high degree of grit. But as far as like age, doesn't matter. As far as like
Mm-hmm.
economic background, doesn't matter. As far as like education level, doesn't matter. Like I think anybody from any walk of life, any gender, any age, any race, it doesn't matter. Like you can definitely get into solar. Now, if you're just, I do deal with a lot of people who are brand new, all just now dipping their toes into solar, and they're probably not a good fit, for my company at that moment in time, just because we're more of a
Mm-hmm.
premium product for someone who's really ready to invest in like the taking everything to the next level, which is probably
Mm-hmm.
not right. When someone's just getting their feet wet, they probably should kind of get their teeth kicked in a few times, before.
Absolutely.
Because
100% agree.
I always tell you, it's like I can't sell you something until you're experiencing pain, because what I do is I solve pain. You haven't
Right.
experienced the pain yet.
You don't even know you need it yet.
You don't even know
You
you need
don't
it.
know
So
what you don't know.
yeah, I can't fix your teeth until they've been kicked in. So why don't you go get them kicked in first, and then I'll come back and
Right.
I'll fix up those pearly whites for you. So
Love it.
but the good news is if you're brand new and you're getting into solar, then here's what I would say. Like you're going to have to find a path to make money and generate some sales. There's two ways to do that. You can either generate them yourself, or you can find a company who will provide it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Path A, a lot more options for that. Almost every solar company under the sun will hire you to go knock doors, or will hire you to
Mm-hmm.
go make your own money yourself, right? They have nothing to
Sure.
lose and everything to gain. So that part is easy. So if you don't have a problem learning how to knock doors and close deals on the doors, do that. And quite
Mm-hmm.
honestly, that is a phenomenal skill to have. Like,
It
I'm
is.
sorry, you can close deals at the door. You're an animal, and you have my respect. You
Mm-hmm.
immediately have my respect, because no one can get through the pains and trials and tribulations of sales pain like door knockers can.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
You
It's
got
just
it.
the hardest thing there. And it sounds harder in the beginning than it really is,
Yeah.
You've
Yeah, I
knocked
just
through
interviewed
doors.
Sam Taggart on here. In fact, we're
Oh,
going to be
cool.
doing some So everybody listening too, I've been hearing a lot lately, especially this is a mild year. I've been hearing a lot of complaints and grumbling about I don't have any leads, I don't have any leads. One, that's why I did the two-part series on how to create free leads, but also I'm going to be flying out to Utah to work with him for solving exactly that for the HVAC industry specifically. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, there's doors are highly valuable because they're free.
Yes.
It just takes
And
takes
there's
elbow
even
grease.
more, and there's more to it even than just that they're free. They're also, no one else is chasing them down. You know, the sad reality of, like, even for my high paying clients, there's a disadvantage, which is that even if I book you an exclusive lead, you know, whether it's from Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, doesn't matter. It's not really exclusive because they're probably going to click on 3 more ads seconds later. So they're going to get hit by multiple companies, and some of those companies are freaking scam artists offering them, you know, free this, free that. So now they've got this false expectation that, wait, solar isn't free. And you're
Right.
like, great, you
The
were so,
government's not going to pay for it for me. What do you
what? Are you
mean?
serious? I don't even want it, man. If I have to pay even a penny, and you'll see the bravado that's in, if I have to come out of pocket even 1 penny or pay a single time, no, I'm out of
Yeah.
here. And this is the guy who's been served up scam ads, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
solar's a
man,
scam.
doors are phenomenal, guys. So if you're thinking about, you know, if you even slightly think it's okay to knock doors, do that. That will teach you how to become the world's best salesperson, how to generate your own business. You'll never be hungry a day in your life. So do that. If you tell me, Peter, there's not a chance in hell I'm ever going to knock a door, I'd rather die. Okay, then fine. Then you better go find a job of someone who will provide you with leads. Now, you're going to pay dearly for this, dearly. Like,
Yeah.
there is no good deal out there to be had. These companies are going to pay you pennies on the dollar to close those deals. So,
Yep.
yes, you're going to learn how to close deals. No, they are not going to be layups. No such thing. Let me just immediately squash that idea of such a thing as a layup. It may be one out of 1,000, but like, otherwise, no, there's no such thing as a solar layup. Everything is going to require work and salesmanship and follow up and grit, right? So if you're getting a job and they're providing you leads, be prepared to be underpaid. Be prepared for them not to be simple, not to be layups, and you're still going to have to work really hard, but for much less money. But such as that, if that's all you're able to do, well, then that's what you're looking at. Now, option B is, like, to answer your other question, is, you know, who should come to us? The person who should come to us is, like I said, someone who's had their teeth kicked in, which is like everybody in solar.
You're right. Yeah.
Literally everybody. You know, it's like, just give it a month or two, and trust me, you'll be ringing, you'll be calling our phone number.
Yeah. If you don't have your teeth kicked in, you didn't go out and do anything.
You didn't, yeah, you never got out of bed. Sorry. Yeah, you literally didn't get out of bed. So for me, like, my target audience is literally anyone who's been in solar longer than a week, you know, and experienced the pain. Unless if you're a door knocker. See, if you're a door knocker, you make your own, you make your own riches. You create your own markets, you create your own leads. You don't need me. But on the other hand is, you know, not everyone can door knock forever. You know, it's not necessarily sustainable for a very long period of time. So, you know, my proposition to door knockers is, like, you know, how are you supposed to scale your business? Like, how are you supposed to grow this model? And how long can it possibly grow for? Like, if you tell me, yeah, I can build a team and do, yeah, I get it, right? We've all done that, but how broad and how much reach can this thing really go, and how far can it really go? I would argue that, you know, at some point, start investing into ways that you can really start expanding your reach and start scaling your business, because you're not young forever. You're not going to be able to knock doors forever. And you're going to get tired of it. Literally, everyone but Michael O'Donnell, God bless his heart, I don't know how the hell he does. Everyone else gets tired, right? But I guess when you're paid 7 figures, you know, when you're as good as he is and you make 7 figures, magically you've got the discipline to get out of bed that morning. But he's 1 in a million. So the rest of them is, you know, I was just at a solar conference just a few weeks ago in Dallas, and, you know, the whole half of the audience was door knockers, and they were all sitting together, so they're like tightly sitting in one spot. And whoever the speaker was asked, hey, who here is, or who is the door knockers? And they all raised their hand. Of the door knockers, how many of you want to do this forever? Not one hand was raised.
Yeah, of course.
Not one hand was raised. So there you go. It's like, even these guys who do it forever, they know, like, they can't do it forever. So you got to start thinking about, you know, what your next move is going to be. And the only way to do that is just get, you know, eventually you got to get off the doors. You know, you can't do it forever. And that's when virtual really opens up literally the not world, but it opens up the entire country of opportunity.
Absolutely. Hmm.
That's, and that's how you scale, and definitely. But this is a skill you're going to have to learn. I mean, that's what I train people on, but you're going to have to learn how to do it. You
Hmm.
can go around me, right? I don't pretend that like I hold the key to this kingdom that you can't figure out on your own. That's not true. You can figure it out on your own. It took me the better part of 4 or 5 years, 4 years. You can do that yourself, but
Hmm.
I'm not even the fastest learner in the world. So like you can do it on your own. But here's what I've done is I've managed to put it all together in a way that is literally cheaper than if you were to do it on your own.
Hmm.
And I take
Sure.
the pain out of it, and I take all the falling off the bike out of it, and I take the time component out of it.
Right.
That's what you're doing with me is you're buying your time back. And that's the best thing that you can do with your money, because you can always make more money, but you can't get more time. So
Correct.
use your money to buy yourself more time. That's what the smart people do in this world.
Hmm.
Like Alex Hormozy talks about this when he's like, no one in the right, no one, when they invent a new piece of electronics, they don't go and reinvent the light bulb first.
Hmm.
We take the lesson that someone already built and we buy that lesson from them, and then we
Hmm.
just move forward from that. That's how that's how
Right.
society progresses in every component. So like,
Hmm.
why are we why as business people are we constantly trying to reinvent the goddamn light bulb? It's like someone's already done it.
Yeah,
Like, pay them a
absolutely.
little bit of money. And I tell people all the time, it's like, I'm gonna show you under the hood. Like
Hmm.
everything we do, I will show you under the hood. So like, if you want to eventually recreate what I've done and build this model for yourself, more power to you.
Hmm.
I want to create relationships with people. So if you want to like look under the hood and reinvent what we've done or rebuild it, great.
Hmm.
Excuse me. So
You're good.
yeah, so I'm like, I have no problem showing that to people all the
Hmm.
time.
I love it, man. And it's so powerful too. And we see that in every business, in every industry, that your ego is not your amigo. And understanding that success leaves clues. Just stand on the shoulders of giants that have already done it and follow some of the, yes, it's great to be innovative. And I'm all about that and being creative. Do that within the tracks that, are guaranteed success. Unless you want to literally go out and my favorite story in the last 20 years is talking about creating an entirely new market is, the air fryer. There's no such, it's not frying anything. It's just a little bitty convection oven.
Uh-huh.
But they created an entirely new bucket that didn't exist before. And it was one of the biggest marketing strokes of genius to happen in the last few decades. And if you want to go through the time and effort to do that, go for it. But I'm here to tell you that, man, set your ego aside, and if there's something that you want to do, if it's HVAC, your HVAC business, if it's your solar business, or a combination, I am 100% here to help people combine that. And a quick side note too, if somebody's want to just dip that toe in, that's a big part of how my company is upsetting the industry, is we've got our affiliate program that's built for part-timers, which is great. And it's a great way to make a lot of extra income without going through some of the sacrifices until you figure out if it is a good fit for you. And then we could push you on to Peter with the virtuoso once you've gotten your teeth kicked in and are ready to make that leap. So it can be a good path, but follow the tracks of success, everybody. That's what trainings are for. You can't live Brian Tracy, which you mentioned earlier, he says you can't live long enough to learn it all yourself. That's why we have to learn from others who've done it. And everything I do is R&D. It's rob and duplicate. With everything I know, I've learned from somebody. I wasn't born knowing all this, but I've spent, in the last 15 years, $150,000 plus in personal growth and conferences and books, and the hundreds of sales books I've read, and philosophy and personality tests, and to be able to distill it down to save people the time and investment to be able to do that. They can do it themselves, of course. And same thing with yours. You're not just a 2, 3, 4 year old business doing this. You're a career
No
of
kidding.
learning and growing and building businesses and selling businesses and creating successful businesses that you've distilled down into something to save people a lifetime's worth of time and effort and investment to shortcut the path. And that's what I love so much about what you're doing, what I do, and just this space, because we can help people get their life back. I'm tired of seeing people work their face off and go through divorce after divorce because they're never around and they're never there for their family. I'm all about work less and sell more. And this is one of the most amazing ways I've seen to do it, especially in solar.
Man, it's all about finding those shortcuts. It's all about finding, like you just said, find someone who's already doing it. Stop trying to reinvent things. It's just so expensive to do it. And more importantly, you just waste so much damn time. And I say that as if I've never done that myself. Like bullshit.
Yeah.
Total victim. I'm a victim. I'm not a victim. I'm a total idiot who's done all that too. Right? I'm an idiot who's made that mistake too. I can do it better than this guy, I can tell you there's very few times when it's worked out in my benefit. Very, very few times. The vast majority of the time, it's like I should have just outsourced to him, let him do it,
Well, I'll tell you what you're on right now is definitely one of the coolest things I've seen in not just the solar space, but in any lead generation space for home improvement. It really is upsetting a lot of people right now, and it's disrupting a lot of things that I think a lot of it's exposing how it should have been done for a long time, and stop taking advantage of people and actually help them be successful, which is a big difference from a lot of the different companies that are, your peers out there. You actually have a great success rate, not just people that gave you money and then failed, which I love to see. That's the only one of the only reasons you're on here, because I'm not going to promote somebody who's out there just an egomaniac taking advantage of people. Yeah. And
you brought up a very interesting point there, which is the idea of actually helping people, as opposed to just taking their money. I'm not here to get rich. I'm here to make a difference. If you make a difference, money will follow regardless. It just doesn't. You don't have to even think about the money part of it at all. Like if your primary motivation is to make a difference in people's lives, the money will follow suit. So just literally ignore the money part of it. And that's literally what I've done. And I tell this to people all the time. It's like our prices are actually shockingly low. We offer more. Our competitors are offering literally nothing but leads. Right? Maybe appointments booked onto your calendar at best, but they're not replaceable. They're not guaranteed. None of that stuff. Right? So they're offering basically leads or appointments or some version of that. And with nothing else, no additional services, no additional training, no additional tools and systems and call center support and all this stuff like what we talked about. And it's because they're after the money, right? It's a money grab. They're there to take your money. They're not there to help you make a difference, because they knew if they wanted to make a difference, they'd have to provide you with all the other legs of the chair like we talked about. And that's why I tell people all the time, it's like we charge less than the lead gen companies do for the same end product with a lot more tools and systems and services that are support. And why do we do that? Because I'm not here to be the most expensive. I'm not here to gouge people. I'm here to become Kleenex. I'm here to become the household name that everybody knows and trusts, because it's actually a good product, right?
Yeah, it's actually going to do what it says.
Yeah, it's actually a good product. There's a good reason why everyone knows the name, because it's actually a good product and it's not overcharged and none of that stuff. So I just want to be the name that everyone just goes to, because they know that it's just a reliable service. It's not overpriced and it gets the job done every time.
Love it, man. Well, I couldn't have wrapped it up better myself. It's time to land this play. It's almost like you've done podcasts before.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So before we go, how does everyone get a hold of you? What's a good methods of contact, and where can they go to learn more?
Yeah, so if you ever want to just get in touch with me directly, I'm totally fine with that. My direct cell number is 303-597-8687. That's my direct cell number. Text me preferably, honestly, because I'm just way too busy to answer most phone calls. So just shoot me a text and just say, "Hey, I saw you on Sam's podcast. I'm curious about XYZ." Just say what. Don't be like the person that says "sup," because I get that too. It's weird.
Right.
So don't be that guy, please. Otherwise, if you want to check out our website, just go to getsolarwise.com. And that's for the solar company. And if you want to see the Virtual Virtuoso program, same website, /virtual-virtuoso. Okay, cool. Getsolarwise.com, Virtual Virtuoso.
Love it. Well, perfect, man. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today. It
My pleasure.
is always a pleasure. I'm sure we'll have plenty more conversations in the future.
I didn't get to interview you. I was going to interview you about your project. You got a minute, or you got to end this?
Let's wrap that up. Let's do that one a different
We'll
time.
do it
We've
next. We'll
got
do it next time.
to wrap this guy up. But yeah, so
Next time.
it's pretty exciting. We can literally do an entire episode on how to sell virtually for HVAC, because
Sure.
nobody's doing that.
I was one
Everybody
of the
thinks, man,
first.
you've got to be in the house, you've got to look at it in person, but you don't.
I was one of the first companies to ever put everything online. My entire catalog was online. People booked appointments online. People saw full pricing. I mean,
Right.
not ballpark quotes, like actual. This is what you're going to pay.
I love it. I
Product
love it. Yeah, I
video.
remember we've talked about that before. In fact, Paul Redman over at Contractor Commerce, we've kind of episode number 50 that I did with him. We actually talked about you and your company a little bit on that one,
That's
and
right.
because that's what his company does is
Very
have
cool.
people put things, just their whole price book online. It's
Very cool.
scary to so many people, but it's the age we're in, man. At the same time, you can never skip personal relationship. Even if that happens, you still have to talk to a person at some point.
Mhm. Yeah.
So many powerful ways to get in the door. Well, awesome, man. Well, any last words, and then we'll wrap it up how we always do here on this podcast.
Yeah, man. Don't get ripped off. Talk to lots of people. Find out who's actually making differences in your industry, whether it's HVAC or solar. And the best thing I would tell you is stop trying to reinvent the wheel yourself. Find someone who's a coach who's doing a really good job. A coach with actual proven record, by the way, because there
Right.
are junk coaches out there who just reselling someone else's program. Don't try to beat those
Agreed.
guys. But find someone who's doing a better job than you are and go learn from them. That's it.
100%, man. Well, thanks for hanging out with Peter. It's been great.
Thank
And
you.
for everybody that's on the call today, Drive Time University, it's the place to be. Use that windshield time. 15-year career of an outside sales or service tech, that's the equivalent of 3 PhDs. It's your choice. What are you doing with that windshield time? Is it Drive Time University? I know it is, or you wouldn't be listening here. And yeah, everybody, it's hot. It's summertime right now when we're recording this. Go save the world one heat stroke at a time.